All right, so this next one is a faceless video titled Why the 10x AI Lie is Burning Out Developers. And it's a masterpiece at, defensive cope and strawman arguments. But the funniest thing to me here is that this creator clearly took that other video with a very similar title, with that guy ranting into a camera, and he grabbed the transcript, ran it through something like ChatGPT, expanded it, added stick figure animations, probably using AI-generated prompts and an image LoRa, and then something like Remotion with animations also written by maybe Claude Code, and created this whole video and shipped it. And so he basically, he probably 30x'd his workflow for how fast he could create a video. But he's telling us that, AI, that the 10x is a lie. Anyway, but, let's look here at the software development part. And it opens, just like that other video with a LinkedIn horror story. A CEO reads an article that AI makes developers way faster. So then he forwards it to the engineering team. Why aren't we that much faster? But, this video actually then goes into statistics, and it pulls out that GitHub statistic of, 2024, that study that said that AI makes devs like 55% faster. So that was already pretty, an amazing rate, and that was in 2024. And from my videos that companies don't introduce AI well. They don't train people enough how to use it. And, so again, that study is ancient when it comes to AI times. And right now, if you ran it, with better models, agents, better prompting, the factor would be a lot higher. And that's the floor, not the ceiling. Anyway, next, the video uses the classic argument, only 5% of work is like greenfield apps from nothing, and 95% is messy legacy code, and AI just can't help with these huge homegrown code bases. And benchmarks often test AI in instances where it just builds a new app from scratch, one-shot tasks. And AI is actually now ridiculously fast at building those. You can give it a super complex prompt for an app, and it builds it for you in half an hour. And you can see examples for that on channels like Bijan Bowen's. And most people would agree that it would take even a very, very experienced developer maybe a week or two at least to come up with these apps and get it all working and running correctly. So it's massively faster in those, much faster than 10x. And I would say that, when it comes to a legacy code base, it'll still be easily, 10x or at least 5x, given where we are in the process, because you can't just point AI at a legacy code base and say, here, implement me this new feature. If you don't have any documentation in your repos, if you don't have all the basics wired up, like good logging and observability, so AI can better find errors that happen and address them. But the main problem here is that a lot of human-written large code bases that have grown over time are just such a huge mess. And he actually gives here, an example of a nightmare legacy system with 47 microservices, undocumented. And he says, there's this sacred function called do the thing that Carl wrote and he left in 2019 and nobody can touch it. And there's this ancient database schema that's not intuitive. And AI can't just understand all this. So you can't have AI touch the system. It's too complex. And I would argue here, this is actually the best argument for AI, because AI can clean all this crap up finally. You can do a big refactor where before it was just too much in the normal course of business to tackle all these things. Now you can, because AI can write code very fast, and you can point it at the issues bit by bit. And that's what we do as software developers. we split up huge tasks into smaller tasks, and then we tackle them bit by bit. And AI is very great, but you have to give it the right context. So that's why you can't point it at the code base and say, fix it. You have to, first of all, have it reverse engineer some of that code that's undocumented, have it write some documentation. So then you can point it at some markdown files, at that function, and say, okay, explain why this function is there, why we can't touch it, how it fits into our whole architecture. And one thing about this video that makes me mad is that it does so much gatekeeping. It says, executives, that manager who sent that LinkedIn article, he just doesn't understand how complex our technical, system is. He thinks, this is easy, let AI do it. But it's actually super complicated because we made so many bad and hasty decisions in the past, and now we're stuck with this mess. And now suddenly in the age of AI, people, I guess, like to think of this as, job security, because a lot of developers maybe look at AI and they see, okay, if our code base was industry standard, really clean, without all these workarounds, then AI could take it from there and write features easily. But to me, it's exciting. Finally, we can clean up this technical debt. And we can reduce the gatekeeping because, now you can actually, and if I were the manager at the beginning, I would actually sit down maybe with a team lead and with AI, and then just have AI explain things without jargon, in normal terms. Okay, what's going on with our code base? Why are we so slow implementing new features? Why can't we use AI to 10x developers? And it's kind of funny that a lot of people think, AI can only write code. No, it can read a ton of code. It can explain it, and it can expose where things are messy, fragile, or just bad. It can help stakeholders understand the level of technical debt. Where before it was really, really hard to find a senior dev who could fully understand the system into the nitty-gritty details and then also explain it in a non-technical way to stakeholders, what's going on. Now you have AI that's amazing at English and explaining things, and it's also amazing at code. So I totally disagree with the vibe of the video here, which seems to be like, keep AI away from our mess. Let us keep living our lives with this messy code base as before. That's just lame to me. And especially in this point of time, April 2026, it's so important to take advantage that, of the fact that tokens are still massively subsidized by the AI companies. You can do that. You can tackle that huge code base refactor for very little money. It might be a different story a year from now, but right now, very little money goes a super long way. Anyway, so next the video goes into security stats, which sounds scary, but again, those are old studies, and AI does what you tell it to. Not likely to push back. If you prompt it badly, if you tell it to write a system that's, insecure, you will get insecure garbage. Now you can ask it to evaluate your code base for security flaws, but if you don't prompt it, it won't. It's like that hyper-fast senior developer with a lot of experience who never pushes back unless you explicitly ask them to. And admittedly, that's one of the big problems with LLMs right now still. For example, for one of my videos here, I wrote a prompt, here, can you help me because I'm trying to react to this video, and here are some sloppily written up points that I want to make. Can you help me flesh these out? And I forgot to attach, the transcript of the video I was reacting to. So LLM didn't push back and say, hey, you didn't give me the video you're reacting to, and it just tried to flesh out the points that I gave it. So if you forget to give it the right context, if you give it an incomplete prompt, like for write me a system that does ABC, it doesn't go back and ask, okay, how much does this have to scale? Does this run, in-house? Is that public? How are you going to deploy it? It'll write something. And then very often, if you just have a very sparse prompt, it'll write a system that doesn't have all the security check marks of a professional enterprise application. So that's still a big drawback, where you just simply, and I always come back to it, you have to prompt it right, and you have to write these very detailed technical prompts, and you still need the technically well-versed person in the loop, an experienced dev who writes the prompt and uses AI to build a system. So I never say, you can eliminate all dev positions, but yeah, definitely one senior dev can now be 10x more productive using AI, because you eliminate all the most time-consuming parts, from reading existing code bases slowly to refresh your mind, and then writing code, and then debugging and testing. AI does that like 100 times faster. All right, very quickly. So the video makes two more points, and one I actually agree with, which is that AI makes implementation so cheap that things can go a bit off the rails. So before, you had a lot of friction when building a new feature, so you really had to prioritize and really look at what you wanted to implement in your system. And kind of, it goes against the spirit of the video that he actually, admits that AI makes coding so cheap that suddenly you can write a lot of features at once, and if you're not careful, your system grows out of control, and you implement all these nice-to-have features that maybe don't even serve the core purpose or help you win more customers, and then you end up with a huge code base that'll be harder to maintain just due to sheer size. And you have to artificially create friction, so you really review well what you actually want to put into your app. And then the next point is the burnout angle, that developers are leaving the industry. And to me, that's not new either. A lot of devs would post stuff like, I'm tired of a new JavaScript framework coming along every 2 or 3 years, and have to learn new stuff and change how I do everything after spending so much time learning the old thing. So you had people leaving, when jQuery died, when Angular showed up, or when Angular changed completely, and then React, or React in parallel. So this field always required constant learning, and you have some devs that are excited about something new that comes along, and then you have developers who are exhausted by it. And in the past, at least, you could say, okay, if I learn this new framework, a ton of new jobs open up for me. So there was like this easy carrot that you could go after. And I admit, with AI, you don't have it as much. You see how capable it is, and you see that it's not going to create a ton more jobs. I can definitely see the burnout angle, how people leave the industry. And again, I don't see how that disproves the 10x thing. Yeah, and then the video at the end makes this abrupt turn to the same closing point as that Brian Jenny video, or whatever he's called. That you have to pivot as a developer, and you have to become the person who explains AI to executive. And again, this sort of rip-off video of this other one, at least, this guy doesn't seem to sell bootcamp courses. But still, it makes me wonder, it has such an anti-AI vibe, and such a, clinging to the old deprecated code base with all this messy stuff. It's like, if I'm executive, would I really want to have an anti-AI developer explain AI to me? So dev who watched this video with the stick figures and nodded along, is this the right person who is huffing copium, sees their livelihood threatened, and wants to push back, and then learn to pivot and become the explainer instead of the developer? And again, that goes actually against the whole point of the video, because it clearly says, coding is no longer where it's at. You have to become more of the explainer, or go a couple levels higher. And anybody could see that with a team of 10 traditional devs, you don't need them to turn into 10 explainers. But anyway, so a lot of BS in this video, and I probably spent too long reacting here to what's basically AI-generated clickbait aimed at junior devs. But it does annoy me how much people are downplaying what's happening. And, I would rather, show what AI can actually do. And I'll get into this more in future videos after probably, another rant or two. But thank you so much for watching to the end. And I see you in the next video. And of course, like and subscribe if you want the algorithm to feed you more videos like this. All right. Bye.